Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Castalia Cocktails, a great spot for a night out, a drink after dinner, or a date. Their Fairy Tales menu, brand new for the season, examines beloved children's stories such as The Little Mermaid and The Jungle Book, and the darkness within these tales, all properly paired with their sfumato fragrances. And of course, there are alcohol-free versions of each of the 8 special cocktails. The whole Castalia menu both tells you how boozy a drink is, and there is a full non-alcoholic lineup, taking care to give you a top-notch sensory experience no matter how you'd like to drink. An intimate bar with less than 20 seats, Castalia is on the garden level on 2nd Avenue at West Alexandrine in Detroit's beautiful Midtown. They're open to all Wednesdays through Saturdays from 5 to 11 p.m., with the possibility for unique experiences like private events and menu tastings anytime with a reservation. You can learn more at CastaliaCocktails.com. That's CastaliaCocktails.com. Make sure to support the businesses that support us and stop on by. Hey everyone, welcome to Friday. It is Friday, December 15th, 2023. I am Jer Stays, and across the table from me is
Devon O'Reilly. Love being in the studio here.
Yeah, the Daily Detroit studio at Techtown is, it's coming together, man.
It really is. I feel like each time I've been back, there's been more up. It feels more homely, more like it's kind of the Daily Detroit studio that we know and love.
Holiday decorations. Robin Runyon dropped off an old Briggs Stadium picture. Adding stuff.
I listened to the fantastic episode with the Firebird guys. I know you got a little bottle of Woodford
it's sitting
stashed
behind you.
away somewhere. Keep that away from me right now. Let's focus on the podcast. But I'm looking forward to tasting that.
So where have you been?
I just popped into a really, really new space at the Cambria Hotel. And I know we've covered the Cambria in various aspects.
We did the media tour.
Right. There's the 5-iron golf downstairs. It's kind of an event space, really cool. There's also a nice little rooftop bar, not really useful right now. But apparently, I'm going to say apparently because I actually wasn't really aware of this, a new restaurant opened up there called, I want to say CIBO. And we haven't talked to anybody. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
I think I saw a social media thing about it that sounds right.
CIBO. I wandered into this on my way to a actual staff holiday party, interestingly enough, and at 5-iron. So I was supposed to go to 5-iron, saw this place, and my natural curiosity took me into CIBO. My gosh, Jer, I was really, really impressed. It's got this again, you could say this is becoming kind of a theme. This grand Art Deco, kind of Miami, California theme where you've got palm trees, a lot of arches, gilded stuff. It's really cool. I'm sold. I may be basic in that regard, but really high ceilings. You know, I kind of just popped in. I didn't have time to have dinner, but they have a full dinner menu. They're open for lunch. They're open for dinner. They have a happy hour, really nice happy hour from 3 to 6. I did have an old fashioned there, which was fantastic. I drink plenty of old fashioned, so if I'm saying it's good, it actually is good. So it was really cool, and I'm glad I popped in. I'm looking forward to learning more. But CIBO at the Cambria, somewhere to put on your list for sure.
I love that it echoes the theme. Now I stopped through there for the tour, but it was not completely zhuzhed. When you sent me those pictures, I was like, man, this is something where, yeah, you'd see it out of Miami. And I think following that Art Deco theme is great. And if you've ever been to Miami, Art Deco is a thing there.
It is a thing. And I saw some kind of on X, Twitter, whatever, where there's just beautiful
Twixter?
art. Yeah. It is basically, America is meant to be an Art Deco city. Art Deco architecture is pervasive in all of the kind of turn of the century metropolises like a Detroit, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, even Los Angeles to a certain extent, Miami. Hey, I'm a fan. I don't got a tangent on architecture, but I'm really this is really cool. Fresh breaking news. Like I said, I just stopped in there, but I do encourage people to check it out. But Jer, where have you been?
So I went out and did something a little bit different for me. Now, listeners will know I like a good musical. Usually I go to musicals in person. Usually I put my nose up at the idea of a movie in a musical. And listeners, if you could tell by the sigh, Devon's like, oh no, he's gone down the deep end.
Well, you're just so much more cultured than me. We've talked about musicals on this program before, but.
So I went to, not just a musical thing, but a historic thing. I went to see Waitress with Sara Bareilles. And let me tell you, It is amazing if you're into musicals or if you're into Sara Bareilles or if Ingrid Michaelson. Like if that's a musical genre you're into, it is great. And it was one of those performances where like the first few notes, you felt good about it. And that's the thing. Like with any piece of art, it's that initial hit where you're like, oh, this is going to be a fun ride. It's seeing the Broadway production of Waitress that was very popular. And it was going to be a very limited run. I wasn't going to mention it because it was only going to be 5 days and over. Well, breaking news of my own, I find out as I'm waiting for you to show up that it's been extended through December 21st.
Perfect.
So I figured I'd add it in as a recommendation. If you're a musical person or if you're into that genre of stuff, it's a great story. It's actually put together by an all-female creative team, which gives it its own kind of sheen. And then I will also add the Birmingham 8 is a little gem. And I was so glad to go see it, built in like 1926, revived in the 90s as a multiplex. It's got the recliner seats. It's got some great chandelier lights, and it looks so great off of the street in downtown Birmingham. If you're up that way, if you're going up that way, if you live up that way, I think it's a great thing to get that idea of like, what was it like to go to a ye old movie palace?
I've been to the Birmingham 8 in years past. I always had a good time there. It's really cool. They play something a little different than some of the other kind of first run movie theaters. So I really appreciate that kind of holding on to a little nostalgia in the old movie theater. So really good choice. And Birmingham, I mean, let's be honest, it is really good for people watching. Yeah,
for people watching, if you're going to walk, you could walk downtown through all of it. As to Waitress itself, I don't know exactly where it's all playing, but it's been extended here in Metro Detroit at a number of theaters. So, hey, it's a pretty cheap ticket, you know, like $15, whatever. You're going to have a good time. Let's get into some news. And this one I wanted to bring up specifically for you because it is your home and native land, to borrow from the Canadian national anthem. Dearborn, which you know and I know, and we've talked about this a little bit, it is a pretty big food truck destination. It's a thing over there. There are more than 30 licensed food trucks for a city of a little over 100,000. There are some changes that could, and I will emphasize could, be coming with a newly proposed ordinance. The move, proponents say, aims to enhance safety, tighten regulations. Now, this proposed ordinance would prohibit food trucks from parking in other businesses' lots. It would put noise regulations on generators, limit operating hours, regulate trash, basically put a framework around this. This is an issue that a lot of Dearbornites are going back and forth, and I thought I'd bring it up to the regional conversation because food trucks are debated everywhere. They were debated here in Detroit for a while. They weren't allowed here in Detroit for a long time, and now they're in very specific places. This is all in the proposal stage. So if you're living in Dearborn, listen to this conversation, feedback, whatever, would love to hear it. But if approved, these changes would happen sometime next year. Devon, you're involved in a bunch of things in Dearborn. You do stuff with the West Dearborn DDA as well, though you don't speak for them, you speak for yourself. I figure I may as well bring it up to you because I can't think of anyone more knowledgeable.
Yeah, Jerry, I've got some thoughts on this, and it's related to this particular issue with Dearborn, but also into Detroit as well, and because obviously I spend a lot of time there too and experience kind of the culture. So I'm trying to think of how to frame this, but I want to say that I will always sit on the side of small businesses, and in talking to a lot of the small businesses in Dearborn to kind of start the conversation, what we found is that food trucks have become pervasive in the West Dearborn downtown, and there's a place for food trucks. There's reasons, there's rationale for why food trucks should exist, where they should be, that sort of thing. But what we're having happen is food trucks are starting to cannibalize on the brick and mortar businesses, and what you're seeing is when you look at the very simple situation of a burger place or a chicken place or a shawarma place having to pay X amount of dollars, thousands of dollars. Let's say $5,000 to $10,000 would be like an average price for a vendor in downtown West Dearborn or East Dearborn or whatever. And they have to pay that price. And a food truck can kind of swoop in, park 50 feet away, and sell the same type of food for same type of price, without that overhead cost, without that sunk cost. That's not fair to me. It's not. And it hurts the small businesses of these main street downtowns. And as a proponent of the walkable city, the 20-minute city where you can walk to all your amenities and walk to your restaurants and bars and stuff, when you have these food trucks kind of usurping that and being able to come in and offer these things, it's really not fair. And there hasn't been regulation in place to kind of define where their role is and where their boundaries are. And I think that needs to happen. So clear, we can follow up, Jared, but my position is food trucks have a place, but it needs to be regulated and specified, and it needs to not interfere with the main street small businesses of a town.
So Metro Detroit is home to the 2-in-1 business. And this ordinance, and I've been doing some research on this, would make it so that wouldn't happen at gas stations. Like, it would prohibit those kind of things. I know that a lot of people like food trucks. I guess maybe there's an argument to be made that if people like the food truck food more or whatever, is that unfair to make it so that they can't park there? Or is this really is this about the revenue?
A really good food truck will become a destination. And so I think what you do is if you designate places, parking lots, surface lots that can become dedicated to food trucks, and you're a really good food truck and people want to seek you out. And here's a great example. Detroit 75 Kitchen is a food truck. People come from far and wide because they have amazing food.
They're also parked permanently. They're a food truck.
They didn't start off that way. So
Okay.
People sought them out and they became a destination. If you're really good, it's one of those things where the food truck scene is kind of the cream will rise to the top. Not all food trucks will succeed, but if you have a really good concept, you have really good food, people will come to you. And you can say, I'm parked in New Center, I'm parked in West Dearborn, I'm parked in Madison Heights. People will go to you because you're that good. But what happens is you have a lot of these food trucks that are just kind of copycat businesses to some of these businesses in city centers like Dearborn and like Detroit. And that's something I think I want to point out is you want to talk to the owners of Grand Trunk, of Checker Bar, of Firebird, of Central Kitchen, and you ask them if they're for food trucks, I guarantee you they're going to have some feelings about food trucks because those food trucks, without a doubt, that are in Cadillac Square are taking away from their business.
It's interesting because they're very highly promoted by the Downtown Detroit Partnership and Quick Rocket now. I keep calling them Quick, and sorry, guys. When I was doing some background on the story, they're like 75 different food trucks over the season. So you think that those take away from those other businesses?
It's a chicken and the egg. The Downtown Detroit Partnership, obviously, part of their goal is to promote coming downtown and showcasing a lot of different food options. But kind of my perspective is to say you have to kind of force people a little bit to go to these brick and mortar places and not let the food trucks undercut that. So here's an example. What I would be completely okay with, Jer, is to say currently there are a lot of food trucks and there's a designated space in Spirit Plaza. To me, that's closer to Jefferson. It's in the financial district. I would be okay saying, kind of pushing the food trucks to Spirit Plaza and saying, that's your food truck area. Go there, because there's really not a lot of restaurants right around there.
There's the one, the Zuzu Experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Experience Zuzu.
Not competition. It's townhouse. Okay, not competition. But I would be in favor of getting the food trucks out of Cadillac Square and opening that back up to focus on the restaurants that are there, because there's a lot of bars and restaurants that are open for lunch and more that could be if the demand was there. And same thing in Dearborn in the sense of, I think there's some really interesting surface lots that we can push food trucks to and say, here's where food trucks to be. Think of Fleet in Ferndale or Little Fleet in Traverse City. That type of very kind of focused and intentional food truck space is fine. And I think it's valuable and it serves a purpose. But having food trucks cannibalize existing small businesses, God, they're hurting enough with, post-COVID. I'm going to push back against that.
The thing is I know that there's a lot of listeners that love food trucks. And so I'm kind of pushing back a little bit on this. What about the idea of a food truck park similar to what's in, say, in LA or San Francisco, where it's like, I think in downtown LA, there's actually like a whole food truck zone, but that's where you go and there's plug-in and power and everything like that. Because for me, although I do enjoy food trucks, I do find it sometimes hard to find them.
Well, again, I'm okay with having designated areas. I just think that you have to set let's say, for example, 1,000 feet from a similar restaurant. I can't get behind a slider food truck that's 1,000 feet or that's 100 feet away from Green Dot Stables, for instance. That's not fair. And I will always be against that. If they're, food trucks work in food deserts. And you and I, Jared, know we talk about Detroit all the time. There are a lot of food deserts. There's a lot of places where you can't get a slider. You can't get a good taco. You can't get a good lobster roll.
When I look at a lot of these calendars for food trucks, a lot of times what I see is I'm in, the Fair Oaks subdivision in, you name it, suburb or whatever, where the suburb or the subdivision or like the little community group actually brings them into their suburban community so that they have something there.
Yeah, you want to pop up in an area where there is need, there's demand, and people don't have access to that type of food. You want to do a shawarma truck in, I don't know, Livonia or something? Fine. But I just see a lot of kind of, again, cannibalizing of the small businesses, and they're having a hard enough time, and these aren't helping. And Jared, I can tell you anecdotally, I have talked to business owners who have both a brick and mortar and a food truck. And to a person, the business owners who have brick and mortars and food trucks say, listen, we got to regulate food trucks more because my brick and mortar is more important. It brings in more money. I obviously pay more rent. It's more sunk cost and capital. I love having a food truck. It helps me, but we got to regulate them more. So when you look at somebody who literally owns both and they're saying, look, we got to regulate food trucks more. That's enough for me.
I'm interested to hear what you all think because there's a lot of angles you could take at this. I mean, someone could agree with you. Someone could also look at it and go, well, changes with COVID, whatever. I really want to go to a walk-up window. But there's also a lot of brick and mortar places that have done walk-up windows.
And they've invested money in adapting. And the other thing I want to point out is, do this on your own. I think there's a perception that food trucks are somehow like really cheap or much less expensive than a brick and mortar. And I don't know if that's true, Jer. I've been to some food trucks too. It's not like I don't patronize them. I do go to food trucks. It's not cheap. It's not like I'm getting like $9 food. It's still $13, $14, $15, $16 to get, a meal at a food truck. So I don't even know if the cost is different.
I was at that wild thing where Santa Claus came down in a helicopter over on Grosse Ile that I mentioned to you. And there were all food trucks there because, it's an airport. There's nothing at the end of Grosse Ile like that. And I spent a lot of it was $25 easily. And that wasn't for two.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I'm not sure they're necessarily that much cheaper. But again, there's a place for food trucks. And I think that, Jared, my last point would be that thinking entrepreneurially, I do think there's a place for food trucks as kind of a test case to say, hey, here's low sunk cost. A food truck is kind of easy capital, low investment to start. If it's really good, it becomes a brick and mortar. But it's one of those things where the goal should never be to always have a food truck. The food truck should become a brick and mortar if it becomes successful enough. And so it's one of those things where that's where I feel like there's a need for them to kind of test out some different concepts and different types of food. But ultimately, the goal should always be a brick and mortar because it's better for business, better for towns, better for Main Street.
Well, I would love to hear what your thoughts are. dailydetroit@gmail.com, 313-789-3211. That's 313-789-3211. Do you agree with Devon? Do you have a different take? I would love to hear it, get this conversation going, because this is one that's going to be happening in a number of communities. I mean, Dearborn is, Detroit was near the beginning of it, but Dearborn, it's still kind of like the leading edge of all this.
Yeah, I think Dearborn and Detroit represent a good microcosm of what's happening. Dearborn is kind of like a small-ish town. But we have such a plethora of food options. And that's one of the things that makes us unique is so many interesting food places. So it's a good, we'll see. I'm sitting in the middle of the tornado or the middle of the storm, as it were. So we'll see how things shake out.
Are you up for a quick rapid fire food update of places and places to go?
Let's do it.
All right. First up, on Monday, Caribou Coffee is going to open their revived franchise concept in the old subway over on Woodward, I think between 8 and 9 Mile. This is going to be another drive-thru only spot. I also learned they're going to be doing another one of these in Allen Park over on Southfield Road. These are about 600 square feet. It'll have a drive-thru and a pickup window, no indoor seating. The Revive brand is actually owned by Panera, which I did not realize, which is interesting. They'll be open 5:30 in the morning till 8 p.m. If you're pumped about Caribou, the first 100 guests on this upcoming Monday get a free Caribou mug and will be entered to win free coffee for a year. How do you feel about these micro spots? We talked about scooters. There's going to be one in Allen Park. There's going to be this. I have mixed feelings because I remember the Caribou, I think in Grosse Pointe, and I really enjoyed the cozy vibes. And I don't know. I know the world changes, but I call it kind of also, I'm like, part of Caribou's appeal was the cozy vibes.
Dang it, Jerry, going to make me, I don't know, maybe we're agreeing, so that's good. I don't want to bring more heat on me, but I mean, we had a Caribou in Dearborn. I really liked it, but I really liked it because I could go sit down, have a cup of coffee. You could meet someone up for a cup of coffee there. It was cozy. There was like a fireplace in there. There was like the moose head or the caribou head, as it were. I'm not sure about these carry-out only coffee places, only that all they serve as is a convenience. No one seeks out Caribou versus Starbucks for carry-out coffee or any other place. So it almost becomes like, yeah, if you put yourself in the right place and you're really conveniently located, people will come and get a coffee from you. But if you don't have an indoor space and you can't go there, there's no way I would seek this place out.
Really?
And I like Caribou, but why would I seek out Caribou? I'm not sure it's that different from any other place. I'd rather sit down or, if I'm literally just driving through, I'm in such a hurry, Jer. I'm in such a hurry that I just need to get a cup of coffee and just feed me some caffeine. I'll take whatever is closest. But if I'm going to meet somebody, I'm going to go somewhere, like I actually want to have some intention with my coffee, it's not even an option to do that. I'm not sure how excited I am about this.
I'm having nostalgia because Caribou's, I don't know if you remember, but they used to have like the craftsman style big chairs with the big, like the huge wood arms.
It was nice. It was like a cozy kind of environment. I'm disappointed to hear that it's going to be carry out only. I was hoping there would be a place to hang out.
As always, would love your thoughts, listeners. A quick mention that Corktown's Batch Brewing has launched a full service restaurant in their tap room because they're always up to something. They've been around for a while and they're always trying to make something new happen. I haven't been yet, but a couple of dishes I saw mentioned were wild boar lasagna, which I'm a lasagna fan. I don't know about the wild, but I'm interested to try it. For you, I think, and maybe Engineer Randy, I can't have these, but crispy oyster sliders.
Yeah, crispy oyster sliders. My wife is not a fan of oysters at all, so I kind of like seek them out as a treat. This sounds like a really interesting menu item. I'm excited to see a Batch expanding their food options. I think they've always done a really good job as far as doing like elevated bar bites. So the fact they're doing this bigger, more expansive menu doesn't surprise me, and I think it's going to do really well.
Well, lots of people love Batch. Like it's an institution in this town at this point.
Deservedly so.
Now, and then finally, I want to tell you something good because people have wondered about Cinema Detroit. You know, that independent movie theater was over on 3rd. It's an organization that really supported independent film, small film, niche film. They are actually doing a partnership with Planet Ant, so they'll be doing regular pop-ups there going forward. So I'm glad to see them have some sort of home and keep that kind of going in some way, even if their bigger brick and mortar just, didn't work out for them.
Yeah, independent arts and independent theater and Planet Ant has spawned some really, really cool people. I mean, Keenan Michael Key came out of Planet Ant, some others, some known comedians and performers. So I'm so glad to see them still continuing that tradition and finding a home.
And if you want to check out Planet Ant, Sunday, December 17th, they're going to be showing a independent film, Rare Exports. So Sunday, December 17th, 7 p.m., something to check out. Devon O'Reilly, we're done for today. We're done for the weekend.
Well, Jerry, we've said a lot. We've said a lot in a short amount of time. I hope this is enough for people to kind of ruminate over the weekend on and share their thoughts with us. I know they're never shy about that, but looking forward to hearing it.
Special thanks to Engineer Randy for editing episodes this weekend. Of course, producer Cheyenne when she gets a shot too. Without a little team, it doesn't go. So appreciate both of them. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
I'm Devon O'Reilly.
Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk next week.